to my channel. I am doing life lessons that I learned from Jake. I'll try not to make this too terribly long, but here's some good life lessons that I learned from Jake. So Jake loved to give to homeless people. He would always give to the Salvation Army guy ringing the bell, you know, all that stuff, and a better person than me, because I'm like, oh, we got groceries, like, come on, let's get in the car, and he'd run back to give $1. So that's a good life lesson that I learned from Jake. In restaurants or drive-through, whatever, Jake was always very specific about what he ordered and what he got. And I would be mortified, you know. He would be like, I need 3 tomatoes, please put some extra on the side, like I'd like them to be firm, I want this sauce, and do this extra, or make it this particular way. And I'd just be like, honey, just let them give it to you how it's prepared, and just like eat it and get over it. And I miss this a lot because I don't know, I think it's a really good life lesson. And he was never rude about it. I want to be clear about that. He was never rude about it, but he was clear about what he wanted, and he always enjoyed his food way better than me, and no one really minded. That was a good life lesson that I learned from him, was just to get what you ask for, get what you want, get what you pay for. It's not a bad thing to get what you want. He was never shy about how much he loved his family. So Karina would always tell how when she would drop him off at school, even when he was in older grades, he would be like, bye mom, I love you, and his friends were like, gross, or, you know, make fun of him, and he's like, what, it's my mom, don't you love your mom? You know, just like totally owned it and could care less what people thought of him about loving his family. We were grocery shopping, and he was like, okay, if we get split up, just caca for me. And I was like, what? He's like, you know, caca. Serious story. So I was like, okay. And we get separated, and I hear, caca. So, you know, I start doing it back. But I just love that. He was not afraid to be himself and to be a goof, and I think that's what so many people appreciated about him. He told me every single day that he loved me, multiple times a day actually, and he would also always tell me how proud he was of me. So anything that I did at work, if I drew something, then he would just tell me that he was proud of me, how beautiful it was, how beautiful I am. Very good at building you up, and I love that, and it made me want to be better about building people up, and that's a life lesson from Jake. He only had eyes for me. It wasn't fake, it wasn't a show for me. He truly was that loyal to me, and that was amazing and comforting that I didn't ever have to be worried and feel jealous or things, you know, so. Jake freaking loved his heritage. He got me excited about mine and looking into my own. He loved telling family stories. He loved history. And our last name is Brian. So he's Irish. He's half Irish, half German. Maybe not exactly half. His mom's dad, like, directly from Germany, from Essen, and then on his dad's side, I know there's some Indian and, of course, Irish. Just our last name is Brian. He loved doing any kind of tradition that we could incorporate. He loved finding German-Irish food, and just embracing his heritage. He listened to Celtic music all the time, which is funny because he was such a punk rocker when he was young, and I'd come in all the time and he would just be listening to Celtic women and he loved it. So Jake was not very good with money, and I say this because he would just like randomly bring home things. You know, he would go out shopping with his mom, and he'd come home and he'd have like a perfume, or he'd have like a new movie for us to watch, or he bought me shoes, you know, or just like a little candy from the gas station. He just loved to shower me with presents. And I'd give him a hard time, and I'd say, you know, like, honey, we really need to save our money. Like, I would have rather you save this instead of like get me something because I don't really need it. But the thought behind it, that he was always thinking about me, even though I was giving him a hard time, it was really special to me. Oh. And I miss it. I just learned from him that sometimes, don't go broke, but sometimes, like, or experiences or the thought behind it is worth the money. He taught me how to live a little. We are dating, and my mom finds out that Jake likes sweet tarts, and so she finds this pie recipe that's like supposed to be like a sweet tart or a sweet tarty pie, and it's Kool-Aid mix, or not Kool-Aid mix, like Crystal Light, you know, that like tart lemonade mix. And so she makes it, but she like quadrupled the amount that you were supposed to put in there accidentally. And so we all, like, she's like, I think it's going to be too much, you know, like, you try it and you tell me what you think. And we all try it and we're like, whoa, that is a lot. Like, I had like a little tiny sliver and I couldn't even finish it. Jake got himself like a huge piece, and he's eating it and he's saying it's great. And we're like, it's really gross. Like, you don't have to keep eating it. And he's like, no, it's great. Beads of sweat are forming across his eyebrow. His nose is like dripping off. Like, water is dripping off. He's sweating hard, so hardcore, and he's just still eating it and asks for a second piece. Come to find out, like 2 years later, he owned up to my mom, like, how gross it was. Which was so funny because we were all like, it's really gross. We all acknowledge it's gross. Like, she knows it's gross because she found out she had like quadrupled the amount of Crystal Light that she was supposed to be putting in, but he was just too kind and wanted to make a good impression and ate that super sour pie with sweat dripping from his forehead. It was hilarious. That man did not judge anyone, and I cannot begin to say like how that opened my eyes to, you know, like, I always treated people kindly, but I did make snap judgments. I did sometimes avoid people because I thought a certain way around them. I wasn't rude to them, but I wouldn't like go introduce myself or, you know, try and be kind. But Jake loved everyone. He would go and introduce himself. He would have a good time with everyone and just would not judge anyone. And I love that. Everyone has trials that they have to go through, and it doesn't make them any less of a person. And I learned that from Jake. He had a friend, Nick, growing up, and he had moved in. No one made friends with him except Jake, and they became best of friends. And Nick was socially awkward, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Jake was his friend, and I just think that's amazing. There's so many people that slip through the radar, you know, and then we hear about awful things that happen to those people because of the depression and anxiety that they have, because no one cares, or they don't feel like anyone cares. And so that's why I think that's so amazing. It's just kind of, again, look outside yourself, find someone new and introduce yourself, and you could change their life. You could change your life. His brother Nick came up with this one for me, and I should probably just read what they said. Before he passed away, he was like verging on 200 pounds, which is like a lot for him. And so I would tease him and call him, like, have him say he had my Santa belly, and like we'd rub his belly. But he was so proud of that thing. He's like, Mom, look at my tummy, like, look at this, you know. And like, just super proud of himself and appreciative of him and his own skin. This is one from his sister Jackie, and she said that Jake always gave her advice on boys. He taught her a lot about confidence and wanted to make sure she knew how pretty she was. So, always building people up. He wanted to make sure that she stayed away from smoking, and he had her smoke a cigarette when she was 15 just to show her how gross it was. She never smoked. And it worked. There's Jake for you. Lastly, to share life lessons from Jake were lessons that I learned about myself. I am a confident person, but he just increased that in me to a whole other level. I learned from him how beautiful I am, how strong I am, and how capable I am, how I can do anything I want to do. And I learned that from him because of his confident support as a wonderful, loving husband. And that is something that will never go away. I'm a totally different person. We went through so many trials and hardships, but yet also beautiful things. And he taught me so many beautiful things and taught me to love myself and to know that I'm enough. And I love him dearly for that. Anyways, that is life lessons that I learned from Jake. I hope you enjoyed them. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. We will have more good stories about Jake, adventures we're going on, things that I learn along the way of this journey that I'm now on. But I appreciate watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks. Bye.